there's times where I can get caught up trying to choose one lane. And you can let me know if it relates to you guys. Sometimes it's like, and then once I find that there's multiple lanes, it's like I then start to try to explore all of those lanes. And then I'm like, okay, in my mind, it's like I'm trying to figure out, okay, which one is the best one? Like, which one is going to lead me to from A to point B? And this is something I would say it's a good thing and a bad thing. Where this is something I would say, if I talk about a bad part, is that it's something that I struggled with because I'm always in this state where I want to look at probabilities and I want to choose the best lane, obviously, because the goal is you don't want to waste time doing certain strategies or certain things that is going to lead you the opposite way, where then it takes you longer to figure it out. And I'm one of those people who I will look at how other people are doing this one thing. So let's use YouTube for example. I'll look at all the ways people are using YouTube, and then I will analyze what they're doing and their strategies, and I'll just analyze it because I think it's very cool to me, right? Um, and this is like something that I realized last night because lately I've been hiring coaches and then watching other people how they do it, like how they're doing YouTube, how they're growing on there. And I had to come to this conclusion where I was like, you know what? It's like everyone has their own way of doing things, right? So if you listen to one person will say, "Oh, like do like YouTube this way." And then you'll go to the next person and they'll be like, "Do YouTube that way." Right? And basically it's like those two different people can be doing two different things and it could still work. And my conclusion was it's like it gets to a point where you have to make a decision. Like it's like if you're trying to make a choice in your life right now, you have to make a decision. Like no one's opinions truly matter. And I know we know this. Hey Veronica, hey Rashonda. And I know like we all know this, right? Like oh, we're responsible for our own choices, but sometimes it gets hard once you start looking at what other people are doing and then once you start getting opinions on what oh, thank you. And then once you start getting, I've been going on live every day. So that's my attempt. I'm enjoying it. But yeah, it can get very confusing once you start looking at everyone and on what they're doing and the strategy they're using. And you quickly realize, like, okay, what may work for them may not work for you. And that's a realization that I sometimes have to remind myself because sometimes I could get so caught up in trying to choose the right path that it gets to the point where then everything starts to get confusing and then you get stuck. And I see this actually with a lot of people as well, right? It's me too. And I usually have to work through it. I got to a point where it's like I understand how to work through it. But I think this is what happens with a lot of people. It's like you start just researching endlessly and you start researching endlessly and you get to the point where then you're like, okay, but what decision should I make? Like, which direction should I go? And it gets to a point where you have to just choose one lane and then just keep doing it. And what I've been learning just doing the lives, because you'll hear some people say, well, do long form or do short form or like go on TikTok live. And yesterday I got to these two great comments where these women were like they just made a comment with my videos and they're like, hey, like, and they're just basically joining the conversation. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, this must be working because people are commenting, they're watching it. And it made me just see, like, okay, I just have to find what's right for me. I remember I was talking to my therapist and I was telling her, oh, I've been enjoying doing these lives. And she's like, that's what matters. She stopped me and she's like, if you, and what matters is you're going to be more than likely consistent if you enjoy the thing that you're doing. And I think that's what we all have to take from that is the right path for you is the very thing that's going to help you be more consistent. I think a lot of times when people are not consistent is they're trying to be like someone else, or they're trying to do it the way other people are doing it. So then when they try to be consistent in it, it gets very hard. Obviously there may be other reasons, but a lot of times it's like we're trying to do it the way that other people are doing, that it doesn't necessarily work for us. You literally have to find the right way that works for you, right? And this is something hard for me because it's like you be looking at other people and you're like, oh, but they're doing it that way. Like, I wonder, like, it makes your mind go because you're like, okay, well, I could see like where I could see the end result. Because the problem is that when we're doing something, we can't see the end result. So it gets very hot. It gets very hard, right? So then we're trying to choose the right way. And and that's how it gets confusing. But I've gotten to a point where, well, what I'm learning is like I have to really focus on, okay, what's working for me. Like, it doesn't matter what is working for other people. Like, what is working for me? What feedback am I getting from someone else? Because I've got into this. So I hired someone recently, like a strategist, like for YouTube. And I remember he was giving his strategies and all this stuff. And one of the things was, okay, like if something's working for someone else, like most likely, this is what everyone teaches you, by the way. If something is working for someone else, right? You see someone take a certain path, like usually the automatic response is to be like, okay, I'm going to try to take a similar path, right? And it makes a lot of sense. But I remember I had this discussion with him and I'm like, but the thing with that method, nothing's wrong with it. I think it's important to research, it's important to see how to get to that endpoint. But I was like, the problem with that message is like, I can do it the same way Bobby does it, but it doesn't mean that it's gonna work for me, right? And it doesn't mean that it's gonna resonate. Like, it doesn't mean that exact action that I take or that exact step or that goal I decide to do is going to resonate the same way it resonated with that other person. Because why? Because we're all unique, we're all different. And I think sometimes we forget that. We know it because we hear it, right? We're all different. We all have something that is unique. That's why they'll tell you like there's no such thing as saturation, right? If you're trying to like right now build a business, or you're trying to like go through a certain, you're trying to do something that has been done before, usually even though it's saturated, it's not truly saturated because what you bring to that specific thing that you're doing is going to be unique. It's going to be different. That's why you would go into a store and you'll see different companies selling different like bread, like selling that one thing bread, but then you always have your specific brand that you like. If you'll notice, like you could go with your friend and then both of you guys like different brands. But the point is there's a place for those specific bread companies. Like there's a place for it. There's always a place for it, and that's what we have to remember. It's like as we're going after goals, as we're figuring things out, we have to remember that there's a place for us. Like, and how someone else is figuring it out and laying their path is going to be different from yours, and we have to accept it. And that's something that it kind of took me years to kind of soak in, where it's like it's a waste of time comparing yourself to someone else because you are your own person and the journey that they're on may be completely different, or most likely it's completely different. They're in a different stage, even though you may feel like you're in the same stage. They're in a completely different stage than where you are and what you need to do, right? One person's mission may be to get married, right? Even though you may have that mission, but then your mission may right now may be to like walk into your purpose in terms of your career, right? Your mission may be to eventually get married like 10 years down the line. I'm just giving an example. Your mission may not be to get married right now. But then if you try to walk in the same path as that person and you're like, well, no, God, I want to get married right now. Like, I don't want to focus on my specific um, purpose. How do you know it's like I just lost my train of thought because I saw the notification. But it's like, how do you know that if you don't do it in a specific order, there could be like, how do you know that there may be something that you need to go specifically so you can attract that right person? Or how do you know that you taking that certain path, like of you not having that specific business right now, maybe there may be a reason. Maybe there's something that you need to learn first. So speaking of this, so I was listening to a podcast earlier today. And it was with her name is called the Budgetnista. And she was talking about how she went through a period where she she was doing well financially, and then, like, all of a sudden recession happened, all this stuff, and like, everything went downhill. Basically, she started having debt, and it's just things weren't going well. And then she said this one thing that really caught my eye, and she said, basically, everything that I learned when I was at my lowest point and getting myself out financially was the very thing that I needed to grow my business to 8 figures. And I was like, look at that. She basically needed to be in that exact position to be able to give that perspective. And so now, because she's been at a very low point, because basically she grew up she grew up with parents that were very financially literate, right? Like, they understood finances, that type of thing. And she said that it was because she was at that lowest point. She was in a lot of debt and all this, drowning. She was able to use what she learned into her business today. So and then that's when I realized, I'm like, see, like, sometimes we go through things or we don't understand, like, why is it in this certain order, or why isn't it in a way that we think it should go? And that very reason can be that, who knows, maybe someone needs to see your testimony, right? Maybe you need to help someone that's going to go through that same thing that you're going through right now. Like, I've seen so many people, like, especially in the, just because I'm around it, but like, sometimes I even saw this, like, Christian woman where she's very popular, actually. I forgot her name. And I remember she was saying, like, from like 18 years old, she wanted to get married or something like that. And it never happened. Like, it basically didn't happen until she was like in her 50s. But in between that time, she was working on her purpose, right? I think she was an inspired woman, like, who were signal and to like walk with God, that type of thing. And like, she ended up writing a lot of books and all that stuff. And she finally met like her husband in like her 50s, like late 50s. And it's like, when you just hear that, you're like, okay, wow. Like, imagine if she had got married earlier, right? Like, she probably wouldn't have done all the things that she did in between then while she was single, because she wouldn't have been able to have that experience, like, or be able to share like that same similar story to other people who would resonate. She wouldn't have been able to do that, to relate to other people who are going through that. So it's like, you just don't know. So, like, what I've been learning just about YouTube, which I did mention, is like, as I'm figuring it out, it's like, it gets to the point where I'm like, okay, like, people obviously have 20 ways to do it. And it's like, I just have to right now follow my path. Like, take from those 20 people and follow my own path. And this is something that I'm applying in my life as well. Like, yes, if I'm making friends, for example, there's many ways to make friends. Listen, there's apps now where you can go on Bumble BFF. You can use 222, where they'll like match you with 6 people and you go for dinner and activity. Like, there's so many ways to make friends. You can go to pickleball, do something about hobby, right? But it gets to a point where you just have to choose a lane, right? Where you're like, okay, like, which one is working for me? What is working for me? And then choose that specific path and run with it. And don't look back. And I think too, it's like, it requires a lot of confidence, like a lot of reassurance in like your decision. And I think that's the hardest part, especially when you can't see far ahead, where you're like, is this the right decision? But I think it gets to a point where you have to just trust that you're going in the right path, and then believe in yourself that, okay, the path that I'm thinking taking is going to work itself out. Like, I think it's just too much to worry about all those things. I'm just curious to know about you guys who are watching, like, how do you make a decision? Like, how is it when you make a decision? Like, are you trying to like get opinions from others, or you just try to make your own decision? Like, what does that look like for you? Because I know for me, like I said, like, I usually have to walk myself through it because I love to analyze things. Oh my gosh, I love complex stuff. Like, I just like looking at what other people are doing and see all the different strategies because it's very appealing to me. And this is like not just YouTube. This is like in different things. But then I have to learn, okay, there's obviously many ways. It's never just one way. There's never just one way to do something. There's always many ways to do it. And if one way doesn't work for you, you could always find another way. You're not really truly stuck, by the way. I don't believe in that. Yes, there's times where you'll feel like you're stuck. There's times where I feel like I'm stuck, but that's when I have to talk it through and then find evidence and be like, is that really true? Like, am I really stuck? I remember there's one night where my mind was just going. So then I called my therapist and I basically, what ended up happening, and I didn't realize, is that I went into this like spiral of anxiety. And where I was like, okay, what if this happens like, like 5 years, 20 years from now, like what am I going to do if I'm still in this certain spot, or what if it's going to be this certain way? And I remember I was telling this to the therapist and she stopped me and she's like, when your mind does that, you have to find the evidence. Like, what evidence is there to back it up? So immediately I was like, well, I'm not finding any evidence. And then she continued and she was like, but if there's no evidence, that usually means that it's not a thing. Like, if you can't find evidence for the thing that you're worrying about, it means that you need to leave it on the shelf. Like, it means that you need to leave it there. It means like it's a reminder to it's there to remind you that like it's not happening yet. Like, so I remember when I was having anxiety and then I tried to find the evidence of that very thing. I was like, wait, I don't even know that yet. Like, I have no idea. Like, if that's not gonna, I haven't seen evidence yet. So therefore, I had to leave it. And I remember I felt there's like immediate peace. And then the other hand was, I was like, how am I worrying about my path and my promise when there's evidence of me in the past overcoming certain things and building a business or trying something new and it working? Like, there was a lot of evidence there, but there wasn't a lot of evidence for the things that I was worrying about. But sometimes you don't realize that when we're there, like we just start spiraling and then you just keep on going to the point where you just don't realize it. Like, what do you guys do in your anxiety? Like, when you're like thinking about the future, what's something that you do? Is there a tip that you do, like something that works, or is it something that you're currently working through? I'm just curious, because that's how it is for me. I'm usually having to walk through it. And anyways, when she talked about evidence, I think that just helped me so much because you sometimes don't realize it, like how you get stuck in this loop. I just want to call it a loop where it's like you can't, it's like hard to pull yourself out if you're in it because you're just, I like that. I do deep breathing. I do deep breathing exercises when I have anxiety. You know, I had a therapist to tell me to do that, but girl, I don't even remember to breathe at that point. Um, but the evidence really stuck for me. But I really like that. I know that works. I tend to do that. So when I go for like a massage, like a deep tissue massage, and that was something that my massage therapist taught me. And she was like, let's say like, somewhere's tight, right? Like whatever. And it hurts while she's trying to like loosen it up. She once taught me where she was like, when that happens, you breathe in and it breathes out and it literally helped the pain. So I imagine that would help so much to just take a step back. But in that moment, I don't remember that. My mind just keeps on going. So I thought that the evidence thing though worked for me really well. But yes, I would usually do that in a meditation. But thank you for sharing that. It just shows that there's so many ways like that people do things. Another thing I like to do is like journaling, but it really depends. I think journaling works really well for me when I'm calm. If I'm getting in a state where I'm like worrying about the future, yeah, see you mentioned that. I enjoy journaling too, brain dumping. And yes, massages are great. Yeah, in the moment it's hard. Yeah. So what got me into journaling was the artist way. I don't know if you heard about it. And she makes you do these like morning pages for like 3 pages, every day. And I find it helps. Now I find that if I'm consistent with it, it really helps with like all the jumble thoughts in my mind. Um, But I find it when I stop, I actually seen a difference. Actually, I'm just sharing this, but I actually seen a difference. Like if I don't journal, like say if life gets busy, I find that that's when my mind starts to get jumbled again. You don't really realize it, but it's like we have a lot of things to say, and I find that that actually does reduce my anxiety. But I find that I have to do it beforehand. Like I can't be doing it. I can't do it in the moment. I don't know how we got into anxiety, but yeah, and like, or sometimes I'll take a walk. I think that's like the easiest thing to do. But I like that, like the journey to yeah, brain dumps. Like that's the easiest thing. I actually had a therapist tell me this, and she was like, when your mind is spiraling, the another thing to do is like journal at nighttime. Um, because then, or you could just you could just put like a sentence. She taught me to do that, where you'll just say, let's say you're worrying about work or something. You'll just write a line and say, hey, right now I'm worrying about work. I'm going to worry about that tomorrow. And you just write it down here and say, I'm going to come back to it. And I thought that was like a nice tip because you just leave it, right? It teaches you to just be like, okay, I acknowledged you. I hear you. I validate you. And then you like move forward. Um, but yeah, so anyway, so that's really like what I'm learning, like as I'm figuring out YouTube. And just realizing like, hey, you just have to pick a lane, like, don't be getting yourself confused, like looking at so many different ways. Like, there's so many ways to make money. There's so many ways to exercise. There's so many ways to eat. There's so many ways to do many things. And I feel like sometimes it can get so overwhelming. And I had to talk myself through it this week where I was like, you know what? If one YouTube strategist tell me one thing and then someone else is saying another thing, I just have to trust the very thing that I'm doing that's working for me and just continue in the lane and trust the process. And that's the hardest part is trusting the process when you can't see anything. Um, but yeah, let me see what you said here. Thank you. I enjoy your content and your authenticity. Oh my gosh, butchering the word. You're doing an amazing job here. Thank you, Keisha. I hope you're saying your name. Hope you're saying I'm saying your name right. I've been doing lives every day. I have this goal to do it by the end of the year, so I'll have like 293 videos. I don't know if you heard of Glow, but she kind of inspired me to do it. So yeah, I'm working through it. So I'm gonna see you tomorrow, though. I'm excited. And we're gonna be talking about something else. But thank you for watching, guys. I appreciate it. And I'll see you until then, Keisha, and everyone else is watching.